Hi, this is Swati Krishna from Anantalakshmi Engineering College working as an assistant professor in CSE department. Now, I want to discuss about the concept of exception handling in Java. The exception handling in Java is one of the powerful mechanism to handle the runtime errors. So, mainly discussed what is an exception. Here, exception is an event or some of the types of an errors to handle the exceptions by using the keywords called as an try, catch, and final. So, the exception handling in Java is one of the powerful mechanism to handle the runtime errors. Uh, so that the normal flow of the application that can be maintained. In Java, an exception is an event that disrupts the normal flow of the program and it is an object which is thrown at an runtime. The advantages of an exception handling is the core advantage of exception handling is to maintain the normal flow of the application and exception normally disrupts the normal flow of an application. That is why we need to handle the exception. Let us consider one of the scenarios. Suppose the user contains a set of statements and block of statements. Suppose there are 10 statements in a Java program and an exception occurs at the statement 5. The rest of the code will not be executed. That is, the statement 6 to 10 will not be executed. However, when we perform an exception handling, the rest of statements will be executed. That is why we can use the exception handling in Java. The hierarchy of an Java exception class. So the java.langs.throwable class is the root class. The Java exception class present in a package called as an java.langs.throwable. It is a package which is present in a Java exception class. The throwable class is the root class of the Java exception hierarchy inherited by two subclasses, that is exception and error. The hierarchy of a Java exception classes is given below. So the first throwable class can be divided in two types. One is exception class and is error class. So exception can be divided in four types, that is IO exception, SQL exception, class not found exception, and runtime exception. And error can be divided in three types. One is stack overflow error, virtual machine error, and out of memory error. So the runtime exception can be divided into four types. One is arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, and index out of bounds exception. And index out of bounds exception can be divided in two types. One is array index bounds of exception and string index out of bounds exception. This is an hierarchy that is of an exception classes. Okay, first mainly the throwable can be divided in two types. One is exception and error, and second exception will be divided in four types and error will be divided in three types. Again, the exception contains four types of fund classes: IO exception class, SQL exception class, class not found exception class, and runtime exception class. So runtime exception can be divided in four types. One is arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, and index out of bounds exception. Again, index out of bounds exception can be divided in two types, that is array index out of bounds exception and string index out of bounds exception. So next, the mainly the Java exceptions can be divided in two types. One is checked exception and unchecked exception. And error is considered as an unchecked exception. There are three types of an exceptions, namely checked exception, unchecked exception, and error exception. The mainly difference between checked and unchecked exceptions are checked exception. The classes that directly inherits the throwable class except the runtime exception and errors are known as an checked exceptions. The best examples are IO exceptions, SQL exceptions, or comes under the checked exceptions. The checked exceptions can be checked at only at compile time. Then go for an unchecked exceptions. The classes that inherits the runtime exceptions are known as unchecked exceptions. The best examples are arithmetic exceptions, null pointer exceptions, array index out of bounds exceptions. These are not checked during a compile time because but they are checked at an runtime. Then third one is error. Error is an recoverable. Some of the best examples are out of memory error, and virtual machine error and assertion error, etc. Next, the Java exception keywords. Mainly the exceptions can be handled by using three types of AND keywords, but in this regarding to subject it contains five keywords. Java provides five keywords that are used to handle the exception. The following table describes each of the keywords. First one, try. The try keyword is used to specify a block where we should place an exception code. It means we cannot use the try block alone. The try block must be followed either catch or finally. Next, the keyword is catch. The catch block used to handle the exception and it must be preceded by the try block, which means we cannot use the catch block and it can be followed by finally block later. Next, finally keyword. It is used to execute the necessary code of the program and it is used to execute whether the exception is raised or not. Then the throw keyword. The throw keyword is used to throws an exception. Then throws keyword. The throws keyword is used to declare an exception and it specifies that there are many errors and exception in the method. It does not throw an exception and it is always used with an method signature. Next, let us consider with the example Java exception example. Next, here uh, example name of an example is an Java exception and public class Java exception example. Here class is an keyword and public is an access specifier. Next, public static void main of string args. We are handling the exceptions by using try keyword and catch. So in the try keyword the error may rise the exception. Int data is equals to 100 by 0. Anything by 0 will be as an 0, that is called as an arithmetic exception. Here the error will be raised as an arithmetic exception. Next, catch exception. After finding the error, it directly sends the error into an catch block, that is catch. What is the exception here occurred? Arithmetic exception. So output statement will be printed here at name of an exception and E will act as an object of an exception. So system.out.println of E. Next, the rest of code of the program, system.out.println of next lines of an code. Next, the output exception in thread main. Actually the exception class will be present in an java.langs exception class. So here what the exception is raised? Arithmetic exception. Division by 0 is the rest of the code. Common scenarios of the Java exceptions. There are given some common scenarios where unchecked exceptions may occur. They are follows: a scenario where arithmetic exception occurs if we divide any number by 0, there occurs an arithmetic exception. For example, int a is equals to 50 by 0. That is an arithmetic exception. Second, a scenario where null pointer exception occurs. If we have a null value in any variable, performing any operation on a variable throws a null pointer exception. Suppose string s is equals to null. System.out.println of s dot length, that is null pointer exception. A scenario where number format exception occurs. If the formatting of any variable or number is mismatched, it may result into number format exception. Suppose we have a string variable that has the characters. Converting this variable into a digit will cause the number format exception. That is, the best example is string s is equals to abc. Int I is equals to integer dot parse int of s, that is the number format exception. A scenario where array index out of bounds exception occurs when an array exceeds to its size, then the array index out of bounds exception will be occurs. There may be other reasons to occur array index out of bounds exception. For that, int array a subscript is equals to new int of 5. Array of 10 is equals to 50. Then the array index out of bounds exception will be occurred. Thank you so much.